for my public solitude, I did around 6 minute piece of the character Miss Julie, and I did her last minutes before she went off and killed herself. And some of the feedback that I got back, which was really helpful, was that I had quite a subdued entrance and I created quite a low energy, which is exactly what I was aiming to do, because these are her last minutes on Earth completely. And I also had lots of moments of just stillness, and some of the feedback I got back was that I wasn't afraid to be still and to just breathe in the moment. And I think that was really, I'm glad that came across, and I'm glad that was really seen, because I think it's such a tragic ending and it's such a tragic thing that's about to happen, but Miss Julie has very much come to terms with it. One of the last things it says in the script of Miss Julie is when Jean has finished talking to her and he tells her to go, she leaves, but it says in the straight direction that she leaves determined. And so I really had that playing in my mind, that she knows what she's about to do, she's not scared anymore, and she might be putting it off because it is a very final and scary thing to do, but at the same time she's ready. She doesn't see any other way out for herself. There isn't any other way out, therefore this is the only way, and she has to be calm and cool and collected, and that's what she will choose to do, and so she does. And so what I did was I also had the prop of a blade, and I had quite a good focus on it, and I had quite a good focus on this blade. I felt like there should have been between me and this blade like a real pull from the object, and there should have been like a sense of gravity almost coming from this object, because it was such a it was a blade. This is what she was going to kill herself with, and so there had to be a real focus on it, and it had to be really important, and hopefully that came across, and I feel as though it did. However, in those final moments, the task I decided to give Miss Julie was to clean the room that she was in, and due to having such moments of stillness and moments where I would just stop and look at the blade and, then look out and try to not think about it, it was sort of those moments were sort of the moments where I then started cleaning sort of became a bit abrupt, because they were very quick and very sudden movements, but I think it still worked just because it made sense in terms of someone who's trying to get something out of their mind, and so they look at something and they go, oh no, never mind, I don't want to think about that right now. But I completely see where it could have looked very abrupt, and maybe could have been slowed down to still match the determination she had to kill herself and the poise that she had and whatnot. Something that I really found useful when creating this public solitude was thinking about the Laban efforts, and I really used that especially with the blade that I had, and I sort of, I walked in with the blade in my hand, I sat it down on the table, I looked at it for a minute, I went away from it, I cleaned up the room, but every now and then I would be pulled towards it, and I think that the Laban efforts really helped me both physically and emotionally identify with Miss Julie, who's this woman from 18th century time, someone who is almost seen as quite a strong character, female character in the beginning, but is only, inevitably it's almost like being a woman is what ends her, being female is almost what ends her completely. giving into her female wants and desires is what gets her to her inevitable death. And for someone living in 2018, and women still are very much repressed, but we're doing so much better, and it's difficult to completely relate to that oppression. But I think using like emotional recall when I felt really, 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 depressed and have felt almost at wit's end with my own life as well, I think that was really helpful in putting myself in that very subdued, very dark, very heavy, very heavy frame of mind. I also think that the Laban efforts really helped me to understand the internal impulses of Miss Julie, and the internal impulses she felt towards the blade on the table, and how she felt towards it truly, that she was ready and she was determined. It also really helped me to see what Miss Julie's perception was, and to see what her directions, her weight and her speed and her flow should be like. So that's something that I think was really key about the Laban efforts, is that I got it, and I went, so what is my direction, what is my weight, what is my speed, and what is my flow, and what does this all say about Miss Julie, and what does this all say about this character that I am right now? And my direction was direct to actually, I think it was a bit indirect and direct. I don't think there was just one, because it was always directed back to the blade, but I was always trying to stay away from it whilst doing this task of cleaning up to distract myself from the fact that I was about to kill myself. My weight was very obviously heavy. It was slumped, and I still tried to keep a certain poise and air of someone who's very rich and very much a honourable woman, but there was still something very heavy about it because of the darkness of the scene. I think my speed was very much sustained, for the most part, but of course there was quite a lot of abrupt movement from when I was cleaning, but I think in terms of speed, it was quite still and sustained when I would look at the knife and the blade and have this almost relationship with it. And I think my flow was completely bound, but it was completely bound to that blade. And I think that was what I was trying to get across. And from the feedback that I got back from my peers and also my lecturer, pretty much added up to what I was trying to do and what I was trying to say. So yeah, I'm pretty glad overall with how it went, and I definitely think something like Laban efforts is really, really useful when looking at public solitude, because it is a private moment, shown in front of people. There's not really talking, and it's something you wouldn't really want to show anyone else. And I think having something that gives you a sort of structure of, what's your direction, what is your weight, what is your speed, what is your flow, that also really helps you understand the internal impulses of a character. It's really important. And then in terms of my duologue, again, we did Miss Julie, and again I played Miss Julie, and again it was just before she went off to kill herself. So there's a theme here. How did I get into the role? I think actually the public solitude helped massively, because I got to walk a different way. I got to talk. I got to walk a different way. I got to see her last moments. I created these last moments for her, and I got to see and feel that in the space of like 6 minutes. And so actually doing the public solitude really helped me get into the role of Miss Julie, but also using my voice, using more diction, because, you know, the language is completely different anyways. It's totally different to now. It's a lot posher, I guess, is what we would say. But, you know, how my voice was sounding, how I talked, again, like I said, my diction, pronunciation, all of that really helped me get into character. And I think also just working with my peers and having those rehearsals that we did was just really useful. And rehearsals went pretty well. I mean, we didn't really have many, and some of them, and the last few weren't great because due to other things, certain people couldn't make certain lessons and whatnot, and me being one of those people. And actually it was all a bit rushed at the end because I, you know, myself had taken too much on my plate and had said yes to doing so many other different things that I sort of left this till last. And so learning lines for it became a little bit too much. So rehearsals were good, but also a bit scary and a bit it was a lot on top of each other, but we got there in the end. I felt like the duologue actually went pretty well, and I say that mainly because I felt like up there on that stage I had a moment, and I don't know if it was all the stress relieving my body or if it was an acting moment in terms of, you know, when you hear actors talking about they really felt something and it was really weird, and that you only get a few of those in a lifetime in acting. But I felt like I really got one. I felt myself really be this person, and I think some of that was due to the lack of rehearsing, actually, because I realised that I knew everything. I knew where we were going in that scene. I knew what we were doing. I knew why we were there, but I didn't know how I was going to do it, really. I didn't know how. And I sort of got to find out with the audience, and I thought that was really lovely, because I didn't see it coming, and some of my reaction and some of my emotions that came out were completely unexpected, even by me, to the point where I walked away and I was just like, where the hell did that come from? So I actually feel like it went pretty well. It definitely could have gone better, and I think even with more rehearsal still they had that moment, but yeah. I also think something that truly helped us all in getting into character, and being in that era was costume, massively, because as soon as you put costume on, you walk a different way, you talk a different way, you are a different way, if that makes sense. I had a very tight fitting long skirt on, I had heels on, I had a buttoned up blouse, and I found my posture changing, I found the way my hands moved changing, and I suddenly felt a lot more graceful, but also a lot more proper, because I had to be, because I had a structure now, because I wasn't allowed to slump. I couldn't slump over in this skirt. It was very tight. I couldn't hunch over. You walk in heels, you already walk with a better posture anyways, and so I think all of that really helped towards, you know, thinking about who this character was and what Miss Julie was like, and how she walked and how she spoke, and yeah.